Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's me, D.H. Thorne, one of your favorite occultists, I guess, these days. No, I'm just kidding. We're hanging out here with my friend L the Alchemist, who is an interesting musician, and he just had me on recently on his own channel for a interview. And I know it's like a kind of quiet Thursday night. It's probably not going to be too busy in here. Let me refresh this, because I don't think the chat's updating. Let me just make sure what's going on. And give me a mic check, whoever's in the audience, if you are there. Let me see if this loads up. It might be a little slow tonight. For some reason my internet's been slow tonight. How about you? Yeah, my internet's been kind of slow tonight, so I don't know what's up. So, but anyway, yeah, you had me on the other day on yours, and I figured, of course, let's bring you on mine, as soon as we can. And it's been a little bit since I did a stream on my channel, so I'd like to introduce you guys to everybody now. I don't know that much about your channel, but I know that you like to do music. I put that in the description. You've got your music that you like to do, and you like to interview people for YouTube and things from the magical occult community. So why don't you introduce yourself a little bit while we build up a little bit of an audience, and then we'll start talking at some point. I hear you, man. Yeah. I hear you. Let me say, you know what? I think I might have made a goof here. We might have to restart the stream. Let me see something, because I might have it set to private like an idiot. Because I do. Let me see. Oops, I'm an idiot. Yep. That's what happened. All right, now I feel like a fool. We might have to restart, like give it like a few minutes. So, you know what? I feel I feel so ridiculously dumb. Let me reboot the stream here. We'll just hang out and wait for people to filter in. Let's reshare it and make sure it's save it. All right, it should be working now. Let's reshare that with everybody. I was wondering why when I tried to post it everywhere, it was just a blank screen. I was like, what happens? Should be the same link. Yeah, it should be the same link. Hey, I've done like dozens of these. About time I make a real error, right? Oh, I hate that. I was wondering, like, all right, I know it's quiet night and everything, but zero? Like, why we got zero people in here? Like, what the? Yeah, exactly. At least one. Oh man, let's see. Hopefully that works. Try it now. Yeah, we got 8 people. Hey everybody, sorry about that. Why? Sorry Tara. Sorry everybody. That was my bad. I screwed up completely. Let's wait till everybody filters in, because normally it works a little bit better. I appreciate you guys. I'm really sorry, because this is what happened. I had set up the stream, but I had set it to private because my last test that I did was private, so nobody would see it in case there was a problem. So that's what happened. I forgot to set it back to public. But welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. We'll restart basically for those of you who missed it. This is going to be funny on the replay. Like, people are going to watch this like tomorrow and be like, what is he talking about? I hear all of it. Like, why is he talking like there's nobody here? So let's give it a minute for people. everybody who's in the chat, if you don't mind, please share this, because I feel stupid. When I feel stupid, I get funny. Please share this with everybody. Again, tell them that the link was screwed up because I had it set to private originally, and I want to make sure you guys, like, some people are probably like, oh, I guess he's not streaming tonight now, but here it is. So share away all, and we will start again. So obviously this is D.H. Thorne, as I said in the beginning, one of your favorite indie occultists that's up and cut, right? Just kidding, but and then my friend L the Alchemist, who is one of the more positive, upbeat guys. I'm really learning to like this guy. I really enjoyed being on his channel the other day. And he's been a lot of fun to talk to. He's upbeat, he's intelligent, he knows what he's talking about a lot of things, and he does music and stuff. He's it's like one of his passions and things, and so is the occultism and stuff. And so I asked him, please reintroduce yourself to the people present, and hopefully people watching tomorrow. If you're watching right now, I apologize for the repeat, but we're going to repeat the first 5 minutes of this, so I hope you don't mind. Maybe just fast forward till you get past the reintroduction. Elle, please reintroduce yourself to all the kind people that are now showing up. Like I hear you. Some people are saying they can't hear you, Elle, so let me double check say something. Yeah, I see what's happening. Oh man, we are just having nothing but technical difficulties tonight. Do you want to do your intro one more time?
Dude, I'm gonna nail it this time.
Oh,
I'm gonna nail it.
All right, so yeah, it's working. I know exactly why it wasn't working. I had to click like one button, literally.
That's awesome. Dude, I'm gonna hit a 1-3. You guys better be prepared. We're gonna nail it. I'm L the Alchemist. I love music. I love motivating people. I love helping push the conscious mind to see green energy, eco-friendly, changing and saving the planet through my music by either making you laugh or by hyping you up to make you want to go run. Whatever the case is, I love that. I love talking to people also on the podcast, learning their golden nuggets that they get, whether that be through books or hearing other people's experiences. And so I like talking to other people to get that. And the third is the physical fitness. I like I guess that's a part of the podcast too. So that's the synopsis. And I've had a long spiritual history from a child all the way to now, where I've had from one side from the right team to the left team, to finding out more where I belong, somewhere I belong like Hercules. And it's been one heck of a journey. And that's it. That's the intro.
Nutshell.
Oh yeah.
That's the nutshell. I'm getting mixed reviews. Some people are saying we're cutting out. Some people are still there. I'm gonna say which, because all my dials say we're on now. That's what I get for like trying to like change things on my stream setup, and not like, yeah, it's. But I think it's working now. I think one person's saying that I hear me. So if you still can't hear me, like when you hear me ask that question, that's right. That sounds stupid, doesn't it? If you still, you know what I wish YouTube would do when it's setting up these live streams, right? I wish it had a little level thing on the stream, bar, so I could see like that there's actually audio coming through. Okay, Johan just says some of that was on his end, so we're cool. But still, I really wish it was, because it tells you your video's working. Look, can't you just give me like a little bobber on the side that shows like audio's working? Like, take you 3 seconds. Like, it really wouldn't be hard to add there. Well, anyway, so you've introduced yourself like 4 times now, and that's pretty cool. So you had me on your channel because you were interested. Now, one of the things that I actually got into when I was listening to your music was when you're talking about your father, and I think you've heard that a few times from your fans already. And when you're talking about your relationship to your father and the internal martial arts that you guys were doing together, and as someone who studied and taught martial arts a lot when I was younger, not so much anymore, mind you, it's more like noodle food now, but back when I was in better shape and I used to do that all the time, I still practice sword a lot, but not like I used to. Like now I'm just like I got the dad bod flying around. I look like Kung Fu Panda when I do it now. What kind of martial arts are you doing? How does that influence your magical work and all those kinds of things?
So with qigong, the energy of knocking it back and forth, and as well as just like feeling the energy within you, and like pushing your hands together and forming that chi ball. Mm-hmm. It's these concepts are invigorating, and by learning more about your subtle body and your energy body through these different martial arts, like qigong, that he was teaching and showing me, and he was always so involved in learning stuff that constantly, whether watching and holding stances with different things, or he told me. So this is just really interesting. That sparks it even from when I was a kid, saying like, when you're meant to be directed down a path, you're going to be shown. And the thing my dad said to me, so it's even on video, as I was a little kid, we'd put on like Mozart. I would just run in circles for hours, and he would be shocked because he's like, I'm reading out of this book that there's these Chinese masters who walk in circles for hours and build up their energy around them. And then as he's reading this, he's seeing his son, who, I'm just a kid. I'm really young, like running around in circles in front of him, and like things like that just like trigger, like, wow, like that's crazy. So throughout my experiences, we'd do push hands and push things back and forth. And unfortunately, I mean, as he's doing, like when him and I really started doing it together, it was about a year later is when he passed away, which is really like, I don't know. It's always been kind of a thing, like as you hear in the music, like he was always looking at it his whole life. Why did I wait so long to take initiative myself, or as well as like take more initiative in loving what you have instead of being so daunted and lost in things that don't really matter, And mm-hmm. So there's just those concepts that reading about that, and then he like made this Dit Dat Jiao, which mm-hmm. like. It's that substance that helps it heal wounds quicker, and I had that scar, and so he made that, put it on me, and then the iron palm he made, and we still have some of his stuff. Like, so if you technically, put it on your hands, punch something, and then do that every day. I've not done that, and I mean, that was like something in my mind. I was like, man, that'd be super badass. I'm like Rocky out here, do. So yeah, it's just always been a huge influence, and he just he gave me, actually, it's right here. The Exorcist Tells His Tales by Gabriel Amorth. It is a Catholic book, but it gave me a view of the Catholic Church with their exorcisms and then like spells and all that, and like he's the one that gave me that book when I was in high school, and I didn't read books or do anything. Like I really didn't have nothing made me like, yeah. And that book, I just read through the whole entire thing, so that's awesome.
It's interesting how like when I was younger doing martial arts, I fell in love with Kujikiri. I mean, I was a ninja nut when I was younger, so everything, of course, I got into that. And I loved Jedi, and I loved all those things. So of course, I studied as much as I could get my hands on. Remember in the '90s, we didn't exactly have like Shaolin temples around, right? We still don't, but we didn't have anything remotely like that. Actually, there's a Qigong center around the corner now, where I could go, but now I feel like it would be weird if I went in there. But it's an interesting study, and a lot of that has informed what I do in magic. Now, when I was younger, I studied under like one of those McDojo things when I was much younger. It was Fred Villari, and they split off the system I studied, Shaolin Kempo, split off from him. It became less McDojo. They brought in BJJ stuff. So we learned ground fighting and grappling, but we still kept some of the more, I don't know, esoteric stuff that we were into when we started. And that means we did learn some preliminary Qigong. We learned some basic practices, some breathing. And I felt things from it. And we learned, how to warm our palms, feel the magnetic pull and the push between our hands. We learned a lot of that stuff. And now that's important to my magical practice. If you watch my videos where I do rituals, you'll see I'll use some limited Qigong methods to build up some energy in different ways to push it into sigils. I feel that Qi ball going into this. It's not hard to learn, guys. Those of you who are interested in that, the basic sense to build up a Qi ball, really, I got people who they pick it up the very first time. It's like I didn't know I couldn't feel that before. Why couldn't I? It's so easy to feel it. Other times people just take forever. They just don't get it right away because I think they're thinking it's going to be like a movie, and it's like it feels like a magnetic pressure between your hands. You can't miss it when you feel it. It feels very, very faint, but it's there. And when you start working with that, and you can sometimes, like I've used it to feed and energize chakra. Like when I'm trying to break through blockages in a chakra, I'll make a psi ball, a Qi ball with my intention into it to blast away blockages, and I'll try to insert it into my different awareness centers where it needs to go. And if I, like, my third eye is the best. When I do it, I can actually feel a space in my third eye being a pressure. I feel something moving in there, and it's like, it's really weird. Oh, wow. I can't explain it, but it's like, it's awesome when it, and then what I do is I use breathing with it, which is always Qigong, of course. Once I feel like it's made its connection, I inhale it through my third eye. Like literally I feel the air as if I'm breathing through my third eye. I feel, and I inhale it right through into it. And that's the thing about the chakras is, as awareness centers, they're actually also supposed to be breath centers in a way. You're supposed to feel not actual air like through your mouth, but this sense of flow coming in and out of the different chakras when you're focusing on them. So if you're breathing in through your throat chakra, that's the easy one because that's already in your throat. So when you're breathing, you feel it like right in where like that cough feeling is, right?
Yeah.
Of course, I just made it happen. But then when you're breathing in through your other areas, you can feel, like for me, the hardest is the root, probably because it's the furthest away from where my lungs are, but it's also, my root is something that has been out of whack most of my life. So getting that in whack, took some practice. And so it is pretty effective when you learn. Now, Qigong, of course, is different, but it's based on, Indian esoteric arts that traveled through China and became part of Taoism and all these different systems. So maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that in a second. One thing I like to encourage people to do is to learn Qigong style breathing methods where you can increase yin energy and yang energy based on your breathing patterns. So how far and what did you do with that? Did you do Kujikiri? Did you do any of those other methods that are connected to that internal stuff, or was it more simple? Anything no judgment either way. But
no, it's judgment. I'm just kidding. It's well, one thing that I definitely know is by doing that, when I have done some exorcisms, pushing that energy, that light like that, and even having like a funnel almost in your arm of source too, or any being that for that matter, you can really push. And like I've seen someone fly across the room because of it, and even saying their chest is on fire. But that's also why I like Dragon Ball Z so much, because I'm like, I'm shooting energy balls too.
I mean, in the martial arts world, I have to tell you, like, and this is humor, but not humor. In the martial arts world, we love the no-touch knockout guys. They go down real quick. But I've never seen one that worked. But I will say that there are things that internally that do work. I mean, I've done the 1-inch punch very well. I'm a big guy, so it's a little easier to fake it. But once you get the flow of how to get that in that energy into the strike, you can send a person flying pretty good, like you said, and they can feel like a burning in their body. Like that's not an exaggeration, and it's not like I said, the ones that I question are the ones that say they can from across the room make you fall over. But the other ones, I mean, I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about. But even if that is, if you got demonstrations, man, that's a legit thing I'd like to see, because I'm open to everything. But
definitely, yeah, it was definitely touch chest. Like I could go, yeah, and
that I believe, like 100%, like that stuff. Even the part where they're like, oh, you have to have the tongue on the roof of your mouth. There's a lot of people who don't know. Like, have you ever sat in meditation and not had your tongue on the roof of your mouth versus had it on the roof of your mouth? What does it feel? What is it? You are connecting an energy channel when you do that. You know, so that, you know, it does mean something. And it's also like there's a mudra where for breathing in India, it's what is it, the dragon's tongue, where you curl your tongue into a ball, like that. You inhale through that and then exhale normally. When you inhale through that, exhale normally, you cool your body down and calm yourself down. Try it. You can. And just do that a little bit. You'll have quite an experience if you do that.
Wow, I'm gonna have to give that a try too, man.
Yeah, just. It looks and sounds weird as hell. Do it for like about 30-40 seconds when you're alone. You'll feel your tongue gets ice cold. You'll start to feel cooled off and calm down. It's a yogic practice. It's very useful. But that informs all this, you know, Qigong is almost like simplified chakra work. You're working with the 3 energy centers, the Dantian, I forget the names for all of them, but the 3 main energy centers.
I forget. You know, you're right. I know Dantian is definitely.
Everybody knows Dantian if you do martial arts, because that's like, focus on your Dantian. You're like, what is that?
Yeah, that's the first thing. He said it in every video, and I'm like, all right, Dad, what is that? And then he explained it. I'm like, okay.
But it's basically the Dantian's basically closer to your sacral chakra, but to me it's actually the entirety of your root, sacral, and solar plexus acting as one, and it's right around your belly button-ish area, usually down and below and behind it. And you can feel, you know, in the system I work with, the 3 central chakras are your chakra of manifestation. So what that means is when you want to do something in this world or the astral, it's these 3 chakras that generally carry out our expressions, our desires, and our actions, okay, through the solar plexus, the heart, and the throat. And so this is why I think a lot of people, when you're practicing Qigong, where do we often focus our creation of the Sai Bowl and Qi Bowl? It's almost always like right here in front of the chest. Why is that? You know, I think that's because that's really where the center of manifestation is. That's where we really build up our that power. When we're talking about our physical bodily power, we're talking about the lower 3. You know, like in hard martial arts, even hard martial arts, they know, they're very aware of that Dantian area. They call it the center in jiu-jitsu. That's the center of balance, the center of energy and stuff. So it's very good stuff. It's really cool stuff if people get into it. I recommend it. So keep going. I've been cutting you off too much. Talk.
No, that's fine. No, I 100%. I'm right behind you. I recommend that too. Like, because it's one thing to be reading, you know, the armchair occultist, which, you know, everyone starts at a certain area, a certain time, whatever. But you know, even just doing that, like learning about your energy bodies and like meditating, because, you know, meditation's not about, ooh, Shazam in a sense. It's more about like letting go and like cutting out all the nonsense and the chatter so you can just be. And, you know, I find that to be phenomenal, something that has to be added into the magical practice. I mean, and if there's like a meditation or a chant, like something like you know, finding something that works for you, the right mantra and everything. But there's like these small intermittent like practices you should add within the whole entire, you know. It's not just about like, all right, I'm gonna get a hold of the spirit, I'm gonna say this and it's gonna go. It's like, well, you have to understand the process of the energy, so you get like a full-on like manifestation versus a half-ass, then a half-ass, you know.
Yep. No, I feel it's exactly right. I mean, you know, one of the things that I often teach, especially newer people, is to remember that the word meditation has been bastardized into a million different things, and it never really had meaning originally anyway. What we're going for in spiritual meditation, there's different ways to look at it. That's why I can classify 3 different altered states in my book. You have the open mind state, the focus state, and the empty mind state. And each three of those are found in different cultures and practices around the world. They're very valuable and very useful. And if you can master those three, and there are more subtle ones, but those three are the big ones. If you get those three, your magical practice will go from you're just saying things over an altar to I'm having like holodeck level experiences of spirits once in a while and synchronicities, and I feel the energy on my altar and stuff. Even if you don't get full manifestations of everything you ask for, you'll feel something different. Something's going to change, and it's unavoidable. And I get people constantly, I ask them, what do you do for meditation? Well, I think about this. I think about that. Have you ever tried emptying your mind? Oh, I can't. Well, of course you can. It's not. It sounds hard, but you can do it. The real meaning of, I think, at least the traditional meaning of what we call meditation today, at least if you go back to Greece and ancient India, the real meaning of meditation is de-objectification, which is what you talked about when you said a moment ago. You said, kind of just be, right? Real meditation is literally just being, and it's being in your subjective experience. But it's not just, it's an integration where you recognize that your objective reality is illusory, and the only reality is subjective. That's not solipsism, by the way, because I have this one critic who's a real jerk who said I threatened his family. But like what? It's not solipsism. Solipsism is a different idea. Subjectivity is this idea that the subjective world is all that you can really, really know to be true. That doesn't mean that that's all there is. It just means that's all. Now, so what I'm suggesting is when you enter this meditative trance state, you become aware of the fact that everything you experience that you think is objective is really like a desktop operating system to cover what really is going on. Because we have to admit to ourselves that what we experience is a product of our senses, and those senses are based on biological interfaces. They're not actually what is. What actually is like Plato's forms. It's an idea with no substance to it. It's not even a visual aspect necessarily. So when we're in our fully subjective state, the thought processes end because you don't need to think. You are integrated into your actions directly. I find it's the ideal state to be in, to be creative, because it just flows from your higher self. The ego doesn't get in the way of what you're doing. The ego takes that back seat where it belongs, not because the ego is bad, just because the ego is meant to be a tool that we manifest through, not a thing that inhibits us. It should never cloud what we do. So that's how I put it. And I'm sure a lot of people will differ, and they have their own practices and their own things. So I don't mean to stomp on that. I'm just saying from a certain point of view, that is what meditation should be. And it is often found in the more traditional Eastern systems still. And it's been lost in a lot of the Western system. Like when people are doing their mantras and stuff, they're thinking the name, they're visualizing the colors and stuff. That's a form of meditation, of course. But when you fully de-objectify your experience of that, and you just know that you have a chakra and that energy is flowing, you don't have to think about it and visualize it. When you have fully integrated that experience, then you've really achieved something, to my mind. When you're still daydreaming about it, that's cool, and it's an interface option, but it's not the goal, I don't think, personally. That's what I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Because when you do let go, you almost don't. It's not that you don't want to come back necessarily, but I know today there was a point in my meditation where I was really let go, and when I had that, it was just I didn't want to move from the process. I just wanted to stay in that process because of the feeling of just being and not having all that extra. Because you're right, when there's that visualization, now that can be used phenomenally, for evocation.
Nothing
of
wrong
course.
with it, right? Nothing wrong with it.
Phenomenal. And then plus the energy feeling, that's double dipping. Then you're really working with some sauce. But it's when you're too busy focusing on different things during meditation, it's too much, because that's not the point. The point's to not let the chatter to be going on. So you definitely have to unplug from the machine real quick.
I've got this one. I forgot. Oh, Haley, if you were watching, you're probably not because you're in Germany. You're probably sleeping right now. I got to get back to her. Remind me when we get off. I have to say hello. She texted me last night. Now, this is someone who's been awesome with me. I've worked with her a little bit. And she was one of those people who told me that she has no problem doing the rituals, and she's got no problem doing the mental part or any of that. But she didn't like integrating the two together at the same time. And I said, well, on the one hand, as much as you need to have that holistic element where everything is acting together, if you're being distracted by your ritual elements and you can't concentrate on the mental part, and you can't it's perfectly fine to do them in separate sequence and then find a way to bring them together in another way. And so it is important to recognize that all of these different parts, like sometimes I sound very judgy and saying you got to do it a certain way because that's the best. But at the same time, there's a lot of different roads. There's a lot of different ways. It's like the Yellow Brick Road and the Wizard of Oz. There's a lot of different yellow brick roads that go to Oz. Okay, there's a lot of different ways to get there, and I think that there's so much out there that we've lost, but also found. It's so useful to explore all these different methods and not be ashamed or afraid to try them all. One that I haven't tried, maybe I'm a little hesitant to, is like the whirling dervishes where they cut themselves and stuff. Now, see, I don't know if I could go that far. I don't know if I want those kind of scars, but
yeah,
I'm fascinated by their ability to hit that altered state of consciousness. People who repeat things over, like the Christians, again, we always crap on Christians, but Christians, the old school monks, they would sit there and they'd flagellize themselves and they would chant basically the same thing as the dervishes would do. So you have like these things, and modern science has seen, of course, that there's correlations between these actions and brain states and stuff, and it's interesting. People have been trying to find ways to screw with their mind since time began, right? We're always sticking something into our mouth and doing something to our heads, and it's pretty wild. But
that's great. No, that's true.
So let's say hi to some of our viewers now that we got them all in here, and I appreciate everybody showing up. Tara, what's up, Tara? I like to see you here all the time. Johan, my friend. Cold Heart. Zednak Beats, what's up, brother or sister? I don't know whichever you are. Divine Spirits Messages TV, hello, how you doing? Flythe the Thifether, Onkset Creole. Conjure Witch, what's up, Conjure Witch? I'll just call you Conjure Witch. That's a lot easier for me right now. Let's see. Seeking Serpent, there's my eye. I always like to, and Carrie Darkstar, everybody. She's one of my sisters in Dark Sorcery. Check out her channel if you don't know it already. She does some of my favorite ritual work. I love her object lessons. That's one of my favorite things that she does. Amy Kay, one of my good friends. She's been on the show a few times. Average Joe, hello, Average Joe. I don't think have I seen you here before? I don't recognize the name. Let's see, Miles Meyer. What's up, Miles Meyer? What'd you say? I lost your comment. Where'd it go?
That's my brother.
That's your brother. Okay, he's the one saying our sound was all good. Okay. Yafir Sab Noobd. I know who you are, brother. I'm just teasing with you. Yafir, he's got, that guy knows a lot. Okay, now, I mean, I know that like he sometimes, he'll correct me on things. He knows a lot of stuff. Go to his channel if you want a lot of technical knowledge. That guy knows a lot of stuff. He just does. Like I bow to his superior instruction in a lot of ways. He knows a lot of stuff. Siberius the Sleeping Serpent. I guess that's maybe that's the brother of Sleeping Serpent 666. I wonder, or that's Seeking Serpent. Maybe they're related. Yeah. So let's see. Diamond Antenna. What's up, Diamond Antenna? All right, guys. So welcome to everybody. If I missed you, feel free to say hello. Oh, Try Eyes. What's up? And Spooky Wagon. So what's up, everybody who's here? If you guys have any questions or comments, put them in bold. And I should say questions, not comments. If you have something that you want me to read out and answer, put it in bold. And of course, I do have super chats open, but that is just optional. I will respond to questions as best I can. It's not like I got thousands of people in the stream, so super chats is just if you wanna give us that little bit of love, but it's not required at all if you want to ask a question. Hello, Sherry, what's up? And David Morgan, what's up, David Morgan? So if you guys have any questions or comments, begin typing them now. As soon as I get to them, I will respond. And if you have a question for L, that would be really awesome. I want to hear more about also his martial arts. So you started martial arts when you were young, or just at a later age?
It was about, honestly, a year ago. Well, not a year ago now, but it was about a year I got an actual, with my dad practice. But other than that, I mean, I did some taekwondo, whatever. I can't even say it, taekwondo, you know what I'm saying? I did a little bit of that, and then I did this one little fighting thing, but not anything other than reading and the theory itself. And then this one practices, but other than that,
not that much. When I was a kid, like I started when I was 12 or 13. It's a funny story. I was always big and tough, always got into fights, and then there was this little Italian kid who was more Italian than me. I'm like a quarter or a third Italian. Little Italian dude who's maybe 5 foot tall standing on a stool. You know what I mean? Little small guy, but his father made him go to the local boxing school every day. And so he was a bit of a jackass. And I'm big. I was more in the WWF style of fighting at the time. So I'm like, I'll just roll him up into a pretzel and throw him on the ground. Well, so he's like this small little dude, and he knows boxing really good. and he was picking on some girl, and I didn't like it, and I decided to be the bully's bully, and I figured I'd challenge him to a fight. So at lunch we go in, I'm like, this should be easy, it should take like 10 seconds. Well, the dude float like a butterfly, and well, he didn't sting like a bee, but he was trying to give me I don't know if you know what a cauliflower ear is, but he was trying to give me one of those. Basically, he was hitting me in the ear over and over and over again. I'm a tank, so I'm just like, I don't care. And I just finally reach out, grab him, squish him on the ground. But I felt like I lost because he clocked me in the ear over and over, and I didn't have any way to stop him. I just kind of felt like useless. I did end up just turning him into mush, but I was so big, that was I didn't feel like I really, I don't know, I felt like I lost in a technical sense.
You should have knocked him out one hit.
I probably, well, I mean, I got him down, I started belting him in the kidneys as hard as I could, and I didn't use it, I put my knuckles like, I know how to make a bad, so I mean, apparently he peed blood the next day. I don't know if that's true, that's what his friend said. But he, even because of all his friends, they all came at me the next day and said that he beat me up, and I backed down because I was just, you're 13, you don't know, you don't know anything. I mean, I've never gotten to that kind of fight. So the next month or something, after feeling like my whole bubble was burst, I don't know if you ever had your bubble burst, but everybody's got to get their bubble popped at least once in their life. So my whole bubble was popped of like my self-worth because I had based it on the wrong things, and I felt like I need to build this up. And I watched this movie. It was American Ninja. And I was like, I want to be like that dude. That was cool. And so I call up the local, Shaolin Kung Fu Center, Shaolin Kempo Karate Center. And I'm like, do you guys teach ninjutsu? And they're like, what are you, high? You're like, no, of course not. Remember, this is like the 80s, 90s. So it's like extra funny. So back then the ninjas were really goofy, right? I mean, they were really goofy back then. So I go in for my first lessons, and the guy like kicks my ass, and I love it. And I became a student. And years later, I ended up becoming one of their assistant teachers, and I got really high rank. I didn't get black, but I got really high rank, and it was my passion in life. That's what I thought I wanted to do with my life. And of course, by then I was fighting way too much, honestly, for my own good. I mean, I didn't fight every day or anything like that, but I got, the funny thing was with the fights back then, for me, were more like you just kind of manhandle the person and make them submit. It's not really a fight. Only once or twice did it turn into like a, that sound of meat slapping, kind of fight. It was usually, they throw a punch, you wrap them up and put them in a submission hold. But anyway, that was my passion for so many years. And I got into bouncing, I got into all this stuff, and spirituality was always big for me too on the side. So it's like I lived two lives. It was really interesting. And they integrated very well because martial arts always has that spiritual side to it, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. That's always like a big component, at least in the movies, so.
Well, definitely. It's not only, it's kind of like walking like a wizard in a sense. I mean, I don't know, that's the best way to put it, but you have to be a warrior as well as, have that wisdom to where it's like you really can walk that line with peace and have that. But if there is a situation that needs to transpire, you can make sure that situation will transpire and be taken care of.
At least you're not going, even if you suck at it, at least you got something.
Yeah, exactly. You got a little card up your sleeve. I really wish it was like, instead of people doing these gang wars and all that stuff, like, why not just have like a fighting tournament and then just like, then you guys focus on that. I mean, I think that'd be cooler than violence, but I mean, that's just,
I don't know. I mean, the way I see it is it's there's many edges to that sword, and I know as a martial artist, I don't like the culture of martial arts anymore. I feel like it's strayed too far from the spiritual center that maybe we fell in love with in the 80s and 90s, the 70s and all that. I think it's been lost, and so that part of it's dead to me. Like when I started to get back into it a few years ago, apparently I pissed off like the whole Bujinkan. They hated me for a little while because I dared to make one video with my opinion on ninja stuff, and it was just like they're fanatical about that stuff. At least they were towards me. And so I just kind of like said, you know what? This is not a hill I want to die on. Everybody's gotten weird about martial arts. It's turned into this. You know me. I tend to, if I sense gatekeeping, if I sense anything like that as a Luciferian, I don't want anything to do with it. I really don't.
No gates.
No gates, please. Like, I mean, I like to have the gate wide open. Doesn't mean you walk through it, but it's wide open, okay? If you want to walk through it, walk through it. So anyway, I left that circuit behind, but I feel like it's sad because there's some, but I used to remember there's people, when they're comparing like their martial arts styles and so BJJ beats this beats that, blah, 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 blah. All right, relax. because honestly, either one of you would get your ass kicked by a freaking, by a bushwhacker, you know what I mean, who's got a rifle at 50 yards, you dead. So don't talk to me. The greatest martial artist in the world can be killed by a kid who's been trained for 5 minutes with a bow and arrow. I mean, it's really not. Martial arts are great, but it's not. It doesn't make you invincible. A lot of people think it does. I've seen people who were world-class masters in their martial arts field, and if presented with someone coming at them from behind with a knife, they'd die. So it's not. You're not immortal. You're not invincible. It doesn't work that way. Circumstance beats skill almost every time when it comes to conflict. You know what I mean? That's why armies train people to think in tactics, not in physical skills.
Yeah.
This is why the army, they train martial arts, but only up to a point. They just want you to be capable, not the greatest, samurai that ever lived. They just want you to be capable of getting into position and taking that shot when you need to. It's a different mentality, and it does become a little crazy. But so here we are on an occult channel. We're talking about martial arts a lot, and I bet you a lot of people don't realize how integrated those two subjects really are. Maybe some of you do. Maybe some of you guys do.
Hopefully they do now.
They should.
For this, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But seriously, I mean, it is. It's just so integrated, and even that mentality of just being able to keep that daily routine. To be like a warrior, you have to train. You have to do stuff daily. You have to make sure you're not putting so much gunk in yourself. I mean, not to say I would do that perfectly. I sometimes eat, a couple extra Butterfingers than I should. But like you're keeping your temple and everything together, so then you're ready for that physicality. But you're right, with weapons and everything else, a warrior in a sense is different than what it was back then, but that's okay, because it's all about
a lot of that's always been the same. Like, I mean, even the soldiers have never been all about, you would always have like your warrior in your army that you had pride in, who had the skill at dueling, because you'd have like sometimes that would happen. You'd settle, especially in the ancient times with like the Greeks and the Romans, I guess the Greeks in particular. Because there's that movie, it wasn't completely wrong. It wasn't that great either, but it wasn't all wrong. What was it? Alexander or something? Not Alexander. Troy. That's what it was. Troy.
Okay, yeah.
And they showed at the beginning. I don't even care who the main actor was, but he went into he was like their duelist basically, and wars were won by duels. I mean, it did happen. Not wars, but conflicts were definitely because kings don't always want to commit to big wars, so you would have your duelist that would uphold your honor for you when you didn't really want to go to war. And so a lot of romanticism is heaped upon that guy who does that, and you end up thinking that soldiers are always going to be the greatest martial artists, but it's not true. It's really not true. And I don't mean to diss any soldiers in the group, by the way, because I know they're badass, but there's a difference. There's a person who spends their whole life studying how to punch perfectly versus someone who's training to just kill people. And that doesn't mean one's better at it, honestly. That's the thing. The guys training to punch, it's an art form for them. It's a way to express and to discipline themselves and to become integrated with that part. I mean, this is where the spiritual center comes from. And I think this is what I'm trying to get at. I'm kind of going too far around the bush. Martial arts not originally, but is a very effective way to do a kind of yoga, to align the mind, body, and spirit in a physical activity. If you're doing it right, if you have the right mentality, if you enter that Satori state, the Zazen state, the Zanshen state, you can definitely get a spiritual experience in martial arts if you're taught to do so. Otherwise, it just becomes about punching people.
Yeah. There's an art form behind it. That's without a doubt.
So let's see. Seeking Serpent said, I was always taught by my sensei, you only fight to protect oneself, but to fight because of bully is dishonorable. He should, not DH, not have done that to you. So I think what he's saying is that, he was always taught to not use martial arts for aggression, but for protection and not to bully people. And honestly, as a Luciferian, I guess I lack morality in that sense. I think ethically, I think you're right. I don't think you go out and should just victimize people because it makes you feel good. But I whether you love Anton LaVey or not, there were certain ideas I agreed with, but of course he got that kind of from Ragnar Redbeard's, might makes right. If someone is bothering you, and by bothering I don't mean they just are saying something you don't like, but if someone is doing something that's bothering you, ask them to stop it if they don't destroy them. That's my mentality in a nutshell. And if I can, I will. I don't feel a moral obligation to suffer people who want to hurt me. If someone is looking to hurt me or bother me in that sense, I will act because I have to. I don't want to. It's kind of like people have this tendency to try to be so good that they hold on to toxic relationships their whole life. And instead of doing that, if we can cut them off cleanly without all the bullshit, because usually it only becomes drama when you hold on to it too long.
Yeah.
If you can cut it clean, less people get hurt. And when I was training for security and bodyguard stuff and stuff like that, we were told, of course, you're of course, you got to be careful about liability and stuff. But when there is a clear and present threat, you don't hesitate. You act quickly to terminate that as quickly as you can. And it's better off that you bring the threat down in one shot than have to beat them for 20 minutes with a hammer. You know what I mean? You want to subdue that problem quickly and not let it linger. And I'm of that mind. That's why a lot of times on Facebook I'll just block and ignore people that bother me. I try not to engage with them. Although sometimes I do, let's be honest. But yeah, so.
Well, definitely. And the one thing I want to add on that for sure is you might, if you don't take any action and you hold that inside of yourself, not only may your feelings and emotions might get out of whack, but then what you do to other people, that's going to start messing with other relationships and other things. So it's like, if you don't take action at the root of the issue, then what are you doing? And I definitely agree. It's one time to say, hey, you need to stop, do this and that. And if you tell someone and you come at it with peace, yeah, absolutely. But then if they do it again, that's when you have to cut off the head.
Something's got to change. You can't. I give people a fair chance. Let's be honest. I don't.
Definitely.
When it says give them one, I don't mean I give them one. I give them a fair chance. If I have to say it twice, I have to say it twice. But you tell them to stop, and if they continue to harm you, you don't have to back off and let them do it. Don't be a fucking doormat. I hate that shit. And we all do it sometimes because I have some compassion. Sometimes people, I feel like they just don't know better. Maybe they've got a mental disorder. I just, all right. But there's a point where you say enough is enough, and you have to. So let's see. Any good comments coming up? We didn't get too many questions. Actually, no questions so far. Someone was talking about how they just worked with King Paimon. They went shopping for King Paimon's offerings, and that night a big thump hit the floor, and I had a visual column of dancing light with a hot wind that blew through my place. I didn't even evoke yet. Yeah, that actually, especially with King Paimon, I've noticed, as it happened like that for me. It seems like when you're preparing to work with him, sometimes he'll just show up and be like, I don't want to wait, let's talk. And so I definitely see how that could have happened. It's possible. Diamond Antenna, I really do believe that could be, I hope you're following up with that. I hope you're not just leaving that where it landed, and I hope you're definitely working with him. He said, I was scared. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, I mean, that's... yeah.
First time I saw King Paimon, I'll definitely let you know, I didn't think I was going to see a manifestation of two red eyes inside the corner of my room, just staring at me. I have no idea that was going to happen. But he definitely manifests. He's a character to manifest, that's for sure.
I think he's one of my, I don't know if I wouldn't say he's my favorite. He's up there in my spirits that I like to work with. At first, I kind of avoided him because I thought his imagery wasn't to my. It just seemed like hokey. I don't know. It just seemed like they all seem hokey, right? When you first look at it.
Yeah, I know.
So, but it was kind of like, I don't know, something about it, and it just didn't resonate with me until I was like, you know what? He sounds interesting though, so I ended up working. And he's one of my favorites now, and he really makes an entrance the first time you talk to him. Afterwards, it lightens up, but that very first time. It's a big deal. Beleth is a little bit like that too. Yafar, I always say it wrong, brother. Please forgive me. He says Qigong is older than most forms of yoga. I don't agree or doubt at the same time. You might be right. I bow to if you have evidence for that. I don't really care which is older. I do think that because of the Silk Road, a lot of that stuff, cross-pollinated so much that we have to remember, like the chakra system, yoga as a practice, all these things developed over time into what we see now. And a lot of that started in like 1000 BC to, 300 or 400 AD. A lot of the things that we think of as ancient are ancient, but they're a little bit closer than we realize, and so there's a lot there of people who are interested in the history of it. Yafar, if you've got a link or something that can show that evidence, I would be interested, because I like studying history. It helps me to learn these things better when I see those connections. So feel free, my brother, in the comments or in the chat, if you've got anything that, not that I doubt you, but anything to show that, I'd be interested in seeing it. Would you be interested in seeing that, L?
Always, and it's for Jafar. He's a character. He's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like
He's
I said,
awesome.
we don't know. He doesn't. He doesn't. I think he's commented on things like, "Oh, I think you're wrong," but he's not. I like his channel. He's got good stuff on it.
Oh yeah.
I can't. What am I going to do? Say, "Oh, I don't like it because you think I'm wrong." No, of course not. And I don't even think he said I was that wrong before, but I think he's disagreed with a few small points a few times, which is cool. I don't really.
Yeah, it's good. Sometimes you need to have, why do you believe what you believe?
Yeah.
I think it's BS. Tell me why you think it. I like it too.
I generally stand by my interpretations. Like, I'll get into arguments about my interpretations, but not. If you have superior facts, then I will, of course, bow to superior facts. And I don't. Why would I resist superior facts? It just makes no sense. So yeah. So let's see. You got some more comments. Lord Hades Black Flame. Oh, I missed some good stuff. Actually, you missed the first 10 minutes was the best part.
That's phenomenal, bro. Phenomenal.
So go back to those first 10 minutes. It's going to be the greatest episode of my channel you've ever seen. No, to be honest, we had like the worst technical difficulties the first 5-10 minutes of the show. So when you start hearing everyone talking, that's when you start watching. As usual, I have sound problems, right? Let's see. Yeah, Diamond Antenna's responding. Yeah, she's getting things together for a full King Paimon jam. There's so much paranormal happenings here. I believe it. He's one of the more powerful Goetic kings right now because he's so popular. So many people are buying into his energy and attention that it's like, he's supercharged right now. It's really, really, really cool to work with him when he comes through. So Tara's saying, yeah, the first 10 minutes was awesome and amusing. Let's see. So Tara Coles asked, she says, I'm not the same Tara as Tara Taru. It's her friend. What's it like to have your third eye open? Can you describe it? Well, do you want to go with that answer first and see if we differ or agree, or do you have an opinion on that, or do you want to go?
I'll give my personal opinion.
You're wrong.
Yes. So
you're wrong already. Start over.
I feel like go back to the that's why kind of what we were going back talking about at the beginning was the feeling people and like who almost like their energy by seeing I don't even know if I don't think they were here for that. Just like seeing different vibes of people, whether you look at someone and you're like, that person's probably does this, that, and the other that's not good. And you see someone else and you're like, that's probably an uplifted, good individual, and or like seeing an alley and getting kind of the sense, like it's a downloaded
spooky alley
knowing
yeah.
that you get inside about just understanding and believing it's there. So having your third eye open in a sense is like being aware of your surroundings and of other individuals, and by having that means like when you work with spiritual entities, they come through into you, like your imagination, which is basically your third eye, and then being able to like have a platform of a character for them to put on through through your interpretation of who they are. Mm-hmm. And so your third eye is just kind of a active feeling of knowing, of vibration, and that's what I would say having my third eyes open. But I might have to go to the beginning of the Silk Road and retry. So see you guys.
Right, let's all teleport back in time to the Silk Road, and assuming we survive the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, probably. Bring that sword. Bring that sword.
I don't know if this would be enough, bro. Let me get my gun.
I got a rock.
I got my shotgun. Maybe then. All right. So my interpretation is not too far different from that. I think a lot of people, because of Hollywood and because of pop culture and all the other things, a lot of stuff is said about the third eye that is more like unverified personal gnosis. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it might only apply to that individual. That doesn't mean it has to apply to you. If you are integrated with your third eye properly, you will be receiving spiritual communication. You will be receiving intuitive understanding. You will be seeing things you didn't see before, but not necessarily, and I don't think at all likely, in that Hollywood special effect way. So what do I mean? What I think having an open third eye is like, it's like you're noticing the omens and synchronicities in your environment, either subconsciously or consciously, and you're acting on them rather than glossing over and ignoring them. So when you're having when you're like getting ready to go to work and you drop your keys 3 times and the dog pukes on the rug and things are happening. Some people just push through and go to work and have a car accident anyway. Other people will go, I just don't have a good feeling about today. I'm going to stay home. Now, does that mean they would have had a car accident or not? I don't know, but I consider that more likely to be an open third eye. But it can get superstitious. People can start getting kind of goofy with it. And so an open third eye is actually more like a form of discernment where you can tell the difference between your imagination and the imagination that is inspired. So what do I mean by that? What you said before was spot on in that the imagination at least is part of that third eye experience. It's part of it if it's not. I don't think it's the whole thing. I think the imagination is the interface between the third eye experience and our body's a way to integrate that experience into action and thought. So when you imagine King Paimon on his camel walking through your living room with his entourage, you know, as weird as that might sound, that can be what it's like.
Yeah.
You have to recognize that's your imagination at play. However, your imagination is responding to a spiritual being that is inspiring your imagination to think that. However, let's add one more layer. A few weeks ago, I did a video where we were talking about the third eye, and I said you might be expecting too much. A lot of people's third eye is wide open. They're just not recognizing it for being open because they expect it to look like Hollywood special effects where ghosts are coming out of your walls and you see, you know, people's auras all over the place. And a lot is said about these things that doesn't carry over to practical experiment and practice, if you understand what I'm saying. I can test people who claim to have perfect, you know, oral vision and, oh wow, it just doesn't work when I do one little thing that would challenge it. It just doesn't work. You know what I mean? So what are we talking about? What are we really talking about when we have a open third eye? So I go back to Plato's Forms as my inspiration for understanding a third eye. Plato's Forms is this idea that there are ideas, there are concepts, there are things which are invisible, they have no substance, but they are ideas fully formed. And so what that means is, I've said this about a dozen times, probably some of the people on the stream are probably tuning out because they're tired of hearing it. If you were to imagine something like a sphere, like this ball, and imagine this sphere and this ball, but without any materiality whatsoever, there's no materiality whatsoever to this sphere. What is that sphere then? It's an idea of a sphere, but now imagine it's got no materiality. There's no form to it. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it, but you can somehow psychically know what a sphere is without any of that thought process going on. That is what the astral realm is really like without an embodied state involved. So the third eye being that kind of interface between that invisible truth and the experience of that invisible truth, that's more like what the third eye is. And your third eye might be wide open and you see nothing, but that's because there's nothing to actually see. There is nothing to see. You are imagining an outfit for your idea to wear. You're imagining it's almost like anybody who does graphic design and you work with 3D modeling and stuff. You'll know that you can create an object that has absolutely no texture to it. The computer recognizes it as being there, but it's invisible in every way, shape, and form. Just the idea of the sphere is there in the program. And it can interact with its environment. It can be solid to things. It can blah, 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 blah. In a very similar sense, that is what the astral is like. It is like a hologram, but in its fully astral self with no bodily integration, with no memory, with no idea going into it, it is hollow in the sense that there's nothing to see. So what we think of as sight, that is not actually astral because that's an embodied sense. If you have a blind person who's never seen before, they don't dream in visions. They don't have visions in their dream. There's no vision in their dream because they've never experienced it before. Someone who's born without eyes, they just, you know, by all accounts, if you say, what do you see in your dreams? They say, I don't see anything. You know? So there is this idea that what we are thinking of is part of memory too. So what we imagine in the astral is based on memory and experience. Now, of course, most people know in occult circles or believe that we are incarnations of something immortal that keeps happening probably over and over again, multiple times, multiple lives, multiple experiences. So it is my firm belief that even when you're disembodied, you will still have a somewhat embodied experience because I don't think we can ever become fully disembodied. I think when our body dies, our soul, our spirit, our being, our higher self just pulls away from the corpse, recognizes that it's the entire environment that it is, and either jumps back into another body or then has an astral dream where it goes off, kind of like the movie What Dreams May Come, and can have all kinds of experiences. But I don't think they're necessarily visceral experience like an embodied state. I think a soul wants to be embodied because then it can feel and touch and taste and hear and smell. And there's probably aliens in another galaxy that have different senses we can't even imagine, that it probably goes and experiences that. I really don't doubt any of that. That's really what I think. Oh, sorry if I made a noise to touch my microphone. That is what I really think is going to happen, or it's going to be like. Will I know? And if I do find out, maybe we'll talk together in the next life and we'll compare notes. But in this embodied state, our physiology is not capable of downloading all of that knowledge at once. So it just keeps a blank slate and just keeps what it remembers and lets those things influence us in life. We are influenced by things we know as a spiritual being, but we don't remember them as a conscious physical being. So that's difficult for people to wrap their heads around, because then the fear sets in. Well, what happens to my whole life when I die? Does that mean I forget it all? And where does it go? And what does it mean? And my lesson to you is that's one of the most important transitions you're ever going to experience, is realizing that you are not the story you've told that you think you are. When your body dies and you no longer have a physical anchor for that story, what's going to happen to that story? You'll probably tell it a few more times and eventually stop telling it. And when that happens, you become somebody else. So.
Yeah, or we transcend out of the body itself, and like within the next 150 years, the human consciousness is able to pull off some Jedi-like states, and then we just go into the next, manifestation is whatever. But I mean, that's kind of the cool thing of it all, though. It's kind of infinite and beyond, because yeah, maybe your spirit will hop into another body or something else goes on, but everything in this physical body and stuff, yeah, this stuff does matter, but at the end of the day, you are immortal. I mean, your spirit's immortal.
You really are is not what you call yourself. That is a part, that's a fragment, that's a piece, that's a mask you wear, that's a name you wear, but it's not real. Any more real than if I said there's a purple elephant standing behind you right now. That's an idea, and it can be true in the astral realm by itself, but in the material world, no, not necessarily. So you are not your thoughts. You're the spaces between your thoughts. You are not the ideas you use to describe yourself. You are the self that's describing itself. So this is the challenge that has been forgotten in the West mostly, but is actually once upon a time when the Greeks and the Indians were having cross-pollination of spiritual ideas. You'll notice that they had very similar metaphysical ideas in the same time period. It's very interesting if you study. They're different culturally, but there's some similarities. Non-dualism really spread in both of those cultures very well. As they're having these epiphanies with each other, you had systems of meditation and non-duality and selflessness and almost all the same things like that we now associate with Zen and Buddhism and Chan and all these other things. That wasn't that far off from what ancient Greeks were doing in some places and all these other cultures. So we as a culture, for whatever reason, probably Christianity, probably pagan belief, all these different things coming together, whatever happened, we pushed away these non-dual ideas, these subjective ideas, and embraced the objective instead. And we decided that what we call ourselves is what we are, instead of that internal experience of knowing ourselves being what we are. So when you achieve that state again in life, that's basically the doorway to Satori. Once you have that moment of recognition that you are not just this is just this is the outline, if you will, of a story that you tell. Once you realize you're not limited to that, now that doesn't mean you're suddenly going to be able to consciously know what your dog is thinking perfectly. And if you can, I haven't achieved that. Maybe you can, but I don't think that happens. But I do believe that when you have that moment of Satori, when you do have that moment of disembodiment, that disillusionment, when you have that moment, while you're having that moment, you are feeling those things. And when you come crashing back into your embodied state, a lot of that stuff gets left out because it's just too much. You can't know what everything feels like at the same time. You just can't. I think a lot of that gets left out. And maybe that's just my hallucination of it. Maybe I'm wrong. Cool. I'm just here to report what I found, like a scout in the middle of the wilderness. Hopefully I don't sound too crazy when I rant about it. So I don't know what you think about all that, but I'm going to read a comment in a second. So if you have a comment on it, go ahead.
I do find it to be more of they want us to be kind of a disconnect. It's kind of a disconnect to the reality of what it is, how we are. We do have that connection, or I feel like my mom. I'm thinking about my mom right now, and all of a sudden, she calls you up, and you're like, oh wow, or Hey man, I wish I could talk to my one buddy. Actually, two times this happened. Where I was editing the video that I put on, and then I was watching ours, and both different times I had that on is when you messaged me, and I was like, "It's right here, like that," you know. Like there's this small little intricacies, kind of showing how everything is connected, and it's like we all are psychic. We already do, have that knowing of what's going on. It's just the fact you have to remember and then be conscious of it.
Hmm.
And then knowing it's the ego, the self telling yourself the story, when it's that character telling yourself that, or if it's the actual truth, and getting lost in the narrative can definitely happen a lot.
Right? Yeah, I think yeah, true. And that narrative, I mean, the joy of knowing that your ego is a narrative that you can change means you can be, that is the embodied sorcerer or sorceress at that point, because you can adjust your story via magical process, via a form of yoga, basically, if you will.
Mhm.
What people would call yoga. I do believe magic is a form of yoga. It's not strictly yoga, but it's a form of union between mind, body, and spirit. And the body in most magical systems is extended beyond just this. It also incorporates your environment. And I think that's why I like it as a system better than like Hatha yoga or some of these others, is I feel like, when I can integrate also my body with a candle, with a this, with a that, it feels better. It feels more alive and more real. I feel more connected to everything. And I feel when I hit that connected, almost Satori state in ritual, I know it's going to result in something that's going to
Yeah.
be remarkable. And I never ever, I never doubt it, So we had another comment. Treya says, Kundalini yoga and breath work makes me feel so good. Crazy body and mind throbbing and buzzing. One of the things I'll say about that, now I've never really practiced Kundalini strictly as you would understand from that. In fact, some of that stuff I've never really cared for because it just, I just never really resonated with me. However, I do understand that feeling because when you're fully integrating your mind, body, and spirit, there's physiological changes and sensations that are unavoidable. They can be keys or clues that you're experiencing something. My thing would be to don't get superstitious about it, but still enjoy those feelings. Like definitely run with those feelings, but don't just assume like because you feel electric that you can shoot lightning bolts out of your hands. Try to stay grounded a little bit, because the objective of becoming a living God, if we will, if to borrow a Balg phrase, is to become integrated with our mind, body, and spirit so that we can apply godlike power to our environment. Now, of course, Hollywood makes that sound like we should be able to levitate tables around and have lightsaber battles and all kinds of cool stuff. But the reality is an integrated being knows that everything that's going on right now already is what the higher God self has intended. So you sort of learn to roll with the flow, and your magic becomes more of a way to integrate those parts of you that still resist, your ego, your arrogance, or whatever, into what you are truly trying to do as a spiritual being. That's my interpretation of it. And I think that's why it works for me, because I don't see it as myself overcoming the world and making it do what I want that much. Although I'll talk a big game, that's not really what my internal monologue is like.
Yeah, I do like to use it for other things. When it comes to like even when I said like when I run, I get myself inside this meditative energy form, and whether that's me then feeling even more pumped up to go faster, or me even having a conscious idea of like a specific spirit that maybe is giving me that inspiration, or me just even channeling like the thought like that endorphin hit that's hitting me when I'm doing that sprint, and then I'm imagining in my mind like the thing that I really want to manifest. That's a great way to shape that kind of external reality into something in this reality.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, one of the things that I've been getting into, with the multiverse theory and stuff, is recognizing that all things have already happened, and that it's my consciousness moving through reality, not the other way around. Time is a construct of my consciousness deciding that something happened already, but it's already happened. Everything exists already. The only thing that is real is now, and now is the conscious perception of everything, and now is limited to your focus of your attention. So if we understand many worlds theory to not just be the collapsing of a wave function into a reality, if we understand that all of those realities actually happen and that the wave function collapses our consciousness deciding which one to experience, then you realize that there's an infinite number of worlds out there where everything you can imagine does happen so long as it fits within supposedly the boundary of physics, if we're going from a skeptical perspective. If you're going from a purely spiritual one, it's probably more like a dream where you can be anything you want. And it's your consciousness that is choosing the reality that you live in, and it's choosing the one you're living in because Now, of course, consciousness truly is more of a one-way street. It's more of an experiencer, but it's choosing to experience something specific rather than the whole thing at once. So why is it choosing to experience the time you got into a car accident and lost your foot? Or why are you choosing to experience your girlfriend leaving you? That is where that root work, that shadow work comes in. That's where all of that, this is why it's so integrated, all of this stuff. This is why I make a big deal of that part of the psychology of it. Spirituality in a lot of ways is meant to be psychological, spiritual psychology. You have to understand what your motives are as a higher being and integrate those. And that's a lifelong process for most people. And there's certain things we do better at right away, and other things take us lifetimes to do. So let's continue. I don't know if you have a comment on that too, but
No.
Any questions for L specifically to L? Let's if anybody has any.
With Try Eyes, actually, that's one of my buddies. I just kind of realized that was him.
Cool.
Yeah, when I did a Kundalini exercise with him, and I definitely could feel that energy, and like doing stuff like that and building up that energy and then going into ritual is really awesome. Just to let all the viewers know. So
I've got to get more into actual just the Kundalini as a practice. I feel like a lot of what I do is already, a lot of my Kundalini is probably already awakened and risen in a lot of places, but I don't really look at it in that superstitious sense. I feel like it's a valid practice, like most of the practices are. And at some point I might experiment with it. Maybe one day I'll be rich and I'll travel to India and I'll find the right guy and I'll be like, show me. Yeah. I'll come back after like 10 years with like a beard and stuff and be like, oh, you have to do it this way. And then completely converted.
Silk Road.
I'm completely converted. Like Lucifer is wrong. That is not true. It's actually but having fun with it. I'm joking, guys. We're just having fun. Let's see. David Morgan says, if I'm reading them right, you know what? I got to maximize this. I sit too far away. Our bodies are designed primarily around the immediate benefit of our egos, so it's only natural that our experience of the actual wholeness of our being cannot be contained therein. There's some truth to that, I think. I think maybe we might be saying that from a kind of expectation standpoint, in that we assume that our body is designed. It is possible that our body is more like let's put it this way. I see the bodily element of reality. Not the material world, because the material world is what happens when the mind interfaces with the bodily element. The bodily element of reality is a completely chaotic, random Rorschach inkblot of fractal patterns that is infinitely diverse in all of its features. It is the mind that picks up on the patterns within that chaos and turns them into things we desire. So I don't think, this is just me, I mean, maybe somebody will correct me if they have some higher epiphany. I don't think that our bodies are designed. I think they're chosen out of the possibilities. In that sense, they're designed. I think it's just a little different sense of the word design, I guess. So we kind of pick a body that resonates with the ego we want to experience right now, in some way. The exact mechanics, I mean, that's almost bordering on superstition, but I think that's the direction we should be looking in. I think we have a tendency to look from the bottom up because we are materially oriented intellects. Our minds, our experiences are materially oriented. Our minds are shifted into that material quadrant way more on the Trinity of Self, on average. Even me, I mean, on an everyday level, I'm not balanced all the time, and I'm not in that spiritual way all the time. I have to pay my bills and do my taxes and unplug the toilet and everything else. So I live in a material world like everybody else. And so my difference is I've sort of trained myself to, instead of just simply assuming that the material reality is the source, I see the material reality as that Rorschach inkblot, and the mind is the source of the experiences that our conscious beings experience. So our minds filter all of this shit that we're experiencing into something meaningful. We decide it has meaning. We decide that this is a ball and not just a blob of rock. We decide it means something. And that creates the experiences that are relevant. It's a desktop overlay of a Rorschach inkblot, I think.
Now, if reincarnation is real and someone was to be this person and then go into this person, do you think that there is a energy resonance of like their physicality of what they look like? And what I mean by that is, like, when someone's possessed, they can sometimes get that overlay of whatever being that is that's possessing them. Do you think that our spirit itself does have an actual like look? If that makes any sense.
Yes, it does. It makes sense, and I see where you're going with it. One thing I would say about reincarnation before I try to give an opinion on that is that
Yeah.
reincarnation, we still are stuck in a temporal mindset as a physical being. So we assume that there's a past and present and future incarnation. When in reality, the right way to look at it, if you really see it the way I'm talking about it, maybe I'm wrong, but if you see it the way I see it, time is the illusion. And so that means you and I are incarnated as each other. You're actually me right now. You just don't know it. Now we call it a reincarnation because as an ego, our ego tends to be what reincarnates. It's our ego that can't let go of that physical experience. And so it tries to find some way to keep going because it feels lost without it, I guess. But even that sounds superstitious. So I try to balance it in a more of a metaphysical sense. And the metaphysical idea would be reincarnation is an idea that we come up with to explain how we as a soul might experience multiple lives. Now, there probably is a sense of time because I think even when we're disembodied, I don't think we necessarily immediately lose a sense of time. I think that the astral world is timeless. It's a time, it's a causality, I guess. But there's still the ability to experience things in a sequence, if you will. So I don't know what to say because I haven't, in this lifetime, so to speak, in this incarnation, I don't have memory of what it's like to be you at the same time as me. I just don't know what that would be like. But I believe it's probably what happens. When you probably become disembodied, you go, oh, I am L. Oh, I am Tara. Oh, I am Noel Wilding. Oh, I am the YouTube channel itself because it's an idea. You know, it's and you have that maybe moment and that terrifies you, and so you consolidate yourself into one idea real quick because you're not used to being so many ideas. That could be one explanation. I'm just throwing a kind of a theory out, but
Yeah.
you know, but as far as a form, I think that just like I said, your ego. Let's say it's like a story, like we've been saying, right? Are you exactly the same person you were when you were 4 years old? Of course not. There's elements of you that are there, and they maybe have an influence on how you are now, but the story is completely different. Like this is like, you know, chapter 10, the return. You know, like it's a completely different story now. Who you are now and who you are when you pass away is going to be another incarnation. And so maybe the right way to look at it is we are constantly reincarnating every moment of our experience into a new edition of the story. And at some point, because of, you know, one of the ways I describe the veil is that it's not a physical or a spiritual separation, it's a matter of context. And so when you're living in a contextual situation where you are a 40-year-old person, you know, living a middle-aged life, the context of you as 4 years old is a phantom. You know, if you try to go back to when you were 4 years old in your memory, you're lucky you remember one thing, let alone all of it. And whatever's there, it might as well be something that didn't happen. Especially when you hit like 80 or something, forget it. That person you were is gone as far as anyone can say. So you've already died in that sense. So you've already reincarnated at least once, if not multiple times, really. So what is it going to be like when you disembody? You're going to reincarnate. You're going to incarnate again. The story's going to change just like it did every morning when you woke up. Because as far as you know, yesterday, the day before, the dreams that you had today is gone. How do you know what happened? You don't. You know, there's no way to know. No. That's because it's not real. The only thing that is real is right now, the moment of experience, and it's gone just like that. It's constantly refreshing itself. You're constantly incarnating. So, yes, in a way, you do sort of carry a style, maybe, or something, because you're obviously, you remember being like you are now a little bit, but a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
So of course you're going to be, you know, maybe in the next, when we say the next life, of course we're saying ontologically that's the wrong way to say it, but necessarily if we say in our next life we might be like what we are now, I think that's reasonable to say that does happen. I don't, you know, to say that if I was disembodied and I was possessed, you were possessed by me or whatever, would you take on my physical features? You would probably act like me or what I think I'm like, and that might influence your mannerisms enough, and maybe the muscles of your face will contort a little bit to match some of my features. I do believe that can happen. And, you know, like when we're talking about a demon, we're talking about an ego mask that is very powerful because it's been around for a long time. The consciousness that's behind it is still wearing it, but in a disembodied state. When you invoke that ego, you are literally pulling that ego mask into your own biology, and your own biology reacts to it the way it does your own ego. And so, of course, it might take on some shifts. It might respond by trying to look like, I know when I did Beleth, right? When I invoked Beleth, my first clue that was actually Belet Siri from the ancient times and not Beleth, the male, demon that they talk about, was this effeminate nature that it had. And I found myself like acting feminine. I'm like, all right, whoa, like what's going on here? Did I get a wayward spirit? What is this? And then I realized, no, this is a feminine energy, and I'm expressing that as a feminine archetype, even though it's not accurate. It's my body's responding to it. Like, I feel feminine, okay, so that's how that's all I'm saying. And we could probably take that much further. We could probably even go as far as to say that maybe it's possible for there to be genetic changes or other changes that happen. Maybe, I don't want to say yes or no. I'd like to leave that door open. So what do you think? Do you think genetic changes are possible through that? What do you think?
Kind of bringing it back to Become a Living God,
actually, yeah, you're right. They did talk about that, didn't they?
Yeah, with Black Alchemy and Belial.
I just remembered that.
Yeah, that was the one being that the reason that was the big reason I was like, I'm ready, I'm done, I'm done. I'm getting a hold of him. Let's get the genetic change going on. And I as an individual since that day, obviously I've changed. Exactly, I reincarnated in a sense. That Phoenix, the ashes, alchemical, the whole entire thing. So yeah, I believe it definitely can. Even my appearance, after I started working with Salos, because I tried to make a pact with them, but it was more of, hey, I'm gonna quit this nicotine, and then you're gonna help me get that girl's heart. Oh yeah, definitely. And I quit the cigarettes. He's like, nah, man, you just need to quit those. I'm like, I love you, man. Yikes. But
I mean, let's also explore this from a purely, we'll say, rational perspective for a moment too. Some people know this already because a lot of you guys are deep already and you're familiar with these ideas, but maybe somebody in the audience doesn't. If you've ever heard of the ship of Theseus, I think that's the right word. It's this idea that, let's say you start with a ship and it's called the Theseus, I guess is what it was. We'll pretend it's called the Theseus in case I'm wrong. And it launches from port and it goes on a many years journey. And over that time, parts of it get broken down and have to be replaced just through wear and tear, damage, battle, whatever. And over the course of 100 years, we'll say, there is not a single timber or piece of equipment or any element that was original. Everything has been replaced, but it's still called the ship of Theseus. Is that not a perfect metaphor for the human being body? Because it is. I mean, every single element of your body is replaced at some point, with the exception of a few molecules in your teeth enamel. Every single atom and molecule in your body is replaced over the course of 7 to 15 years, they say. I'm sure there's some variance, but that's a pretty fair average, especially when you understand how quickly, like when you take a breath and you exhale, it takes about 10 years for that exhale to be perfectly spread out through the entire world, and within about 10 to 12 years you're inhaling atoms that were in your lungs 10 years ago. So one of the funny stories that is told is that when your mother gave birth to you, that first scream that you let out as an infant when they slapped you on the ass, there's a molecule or two of that same air in your lungs when you blow out your 10th birthday candle as was there when you were born. So if you think about things in that perspective, what are you? You're not your body, because your body is constantly shifting and changing completely. The elements, the molecules, the particles. Are you just your teeth then, since that's there from birth to death? Of course not, because you pull your teeth out, you're not that either, are you? So what are you? If you're not your body, what the fuck are you? Well, what is a wave? A lot of people think a wave is the ocean or the water, and that's a good metaphor. We say, I'm the ocean, not the wave. But what in science is a wave? Well, a wave is a behavior of water when kinetic energy is moving through it in the form of sound. So we're really talking about a wave of energy that's moving through matter, that is, the matter is responding to that energy. So what are you? You are a story that is encapsulated around, because a wave is a story, isn't it? A wave, let's say you have an asteroid land in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. You could track one of those waves all the way from the epicenter all the way to the shore where it crashes. You could name that wave and follow it the whole way across. And that wave will seem like an individual, and it's a powerful individual, and it'll crash. Wave Ivan crashed on the shore. Or a storm. We call a storm a name, but no particle of that storm is the same as when it started. It's completely different. So what I'm getting at is that is you. That is your experience. That is your everyday life. That is what you think you are. You think you are L, Thorne, whoever the hell you think you are. That's just a word that you've used, a story you've used to describe a wave of energy that's moving through matter. Once you understand that, you also recognize all energy is connected. It's all basically, once you realize these things, you get these wake-ups that you get, and you go, I got to start sitting down and taking some of this more seriously than just bibbity-bobbity-boo. So.
Yeah. and that's also, the thing of transcending once it's out of this physical body. Then that's why people, it's like, oh, do you go to the light and then just go basically become light back into source, in that connection and everything? Or do you still want to keep your own little form, your own little great part 2 story, Mm-hmm. And that, I feel like that's happened for me, because now I've been doing a lot of just past life regression from memories that come that I know are natural. It doesn't happen all the time, and I'm not saying they're perfectly right, but by my intuition, I feel lots of those things, are come through, and then I don't know, I just think it's beyond one lifetime of work, and that's also why in this lifetime I'm pushing so hard on helping push the golden age, because we got to do it.
Why not? I mean, I don't like love and light in the sense that it can become a shadow, because we tend to steer towards it so hard that we ignore our dark side. But that doesn't mean that we try to hurt everybody either. We are trying to achieve a world in which we are most likely to ascend, if that makes sense. And that means that it is, on an ethical level, I try to do what's right for the world and for individuals and things as best. I call it being noble. I don't think it's being moral. I think it's being noble. I have a set of rules that I try to follow so that I have the most fulfilling relationships. And when they betray it, I like LeVay, I cut it right off. I don't want it to keep going. So someone had said, I want to get back to a comment because they actually hit something pretty cool. Where was it? I think it was Tara said, there it is. I feel like demons used to be people, but they've matured and transcended. Now, we're going to get a little unverified personal gnosis level here, and I'm not saying this as a rule, but I do agree that most of the demonic beings that we're experiencing are consciousnesses that were mostly, not all, mostly were living people that upon death ascended, and they either became, now when we say demons, let's disenfranchise that word from the Christian concept of demons and go back to more that daemonic idea. They're daemons more than demons, okay? So let's because I like using demons because it's inspiring. I like using that word, but that is not necessarily what we're talking about. Demons is just one label we use. Let's see them as disembodied spiritual entities of greater integration, we'll say. They are disembodied, but they are somehow near godly in some way, some capacity. They're divine. They're closer to the divinity than we're aware of ourselves, we'll say. It's not that they're more divine than us. They're just more aware of their own divinity, maybe. And most of those demons were gods in antiquity. And most of those gods were based very often on a living person that said, I'm a god, do what I want. They became deified. The pharaohs, the this, the that. That's not to say that's all of them. I think some of them were just humble people that they just achieved ascended master status, if you will, and there they are. Now, is that because they were humans first? I don't know. Maybe they were aliens. Maybe they were gobbledygooks from Galaxy Z. I don't know. But they are now here as disembodied intellects, as consciousnesses, as minds, interacting with those of us who are aware of them. And they are a tool in a sense. They're friends, they're family, they're that, they're this. And that's that. Humanity has a tendency to label things, and when we label things, we can get lost in the labels and we fuck ourselves up. It turns into superstition. There's a guy I like to watch occasionally, Morg. His channel's Morg Official on YouTube. Now he's a little more sciencey than I prefer. He gets a little more into it's all golden ratio. He's got like a mathematical sequence for the soul. It's cool. I recommend his channel a lot, by the way. Check it out. It's pretty cool. But he says one thing that I really resonate with, and that is that humanity's biggest mistake, or one of them, one of the things that has robbed us of our enlightenment and our growth as a species, has been our reliance on only stories. Now, he says stories in general. I think it's a reliance only on stories for our spiritual growth. Now, what do I mean by that is that stories beget superstition. Metaphysics is math, logic, reason, science in a spiritual sense. Stories are pervertible into, these are demons, not gods. Those are jinn, not demons. That's this, that. Like, fucking miss me with that shit. It gets old real quick because it just turns into different divisions of the same truth. Why do you have 10 different cultures with the same entity, just little variations between them, and which one's more true? Well, stop. That's so stupid. That's like saying you were more true when you were 4 than you are now because that came first. Stop with the linear thinking. Expunge that from your mind. Try to exist in a spiritual state where all is now, and try to see that these spirits are here now. Fuck who they were in 6000 BC. Forget what people call them. If they come to you as a jinn, work with the jinn. If they come to you as a demon, work with the demon. If they come to you as an angel, work with an angel. If they come to you as an elemental being, work with that elemental being. Enjoy the diversity of how they represent themselves, because that's where the magic happens, right? I think.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. If you really individualize it, then you're really going to be able to get something grounded. I mean, I could sit here and watch video of someone's experience with this spirit and hope to get the same experience. And like even both our instances with King Beleth, it was different. It was different for me. She came as a female, and then learning more about her, it's just kind of, you don't want to get so rob yourself of a magical experience because you're too nose to the book. You just have to have the experience and let your imagination, as well as, these are powerful beings. So like if you really are believing in yourself and you're calling them forth, enjoy the ride.
Right.
Like enjoy the ride.
Right. I think that's, and I challenge in a peaceful way, of course, any dogmatist with a superstitious mentality, to really test that shit. Really explore what you think is true. And really, people live in this world of books and they don't practice and they don't talk to the spirits, and they'll come in, well, I heard that this is that, so I don't think you're right because, well, have you talked to it? Have you sat in an altar? Have you made an offering to it? Have you burnt things to it? Have you had an experience with it? And if so, and they said that to you, good, that's the experience you're meant to have. It's not the one I'm meant to have. So that's, I sound a little ranty now, don't I? But it's frustrating to someone. This is one of the reasons why I like certain Hindu expressions of spirituality. I think it was Sadhguru said it, and he's not the one who said it. I think it's an old idea that the gods of that culture are stepping stones to your own divinity. You have to recognize that Shiva is you, that all of these beings are you in the ultimate sense. You're not divisible. You are one. And when you recognize that truly, when you have that moment, that epiphany, all of these masks become toys you can play with. They become just new superheroes that you can, as a new adult child, you can have these adventures with. And they just so happen to manipulate reality for you in your favor when you ask them.
Shout out King Paimon.
Shout out King Paimon. So I think we're going to be giving a little bit of a break now. I think I've ranted enough, but guys, I really appreciate you. Let's give it another, we're at 1:32 in timing. Let's give it a little bit longer, but not much. Let's give it like another 10, 15, 20 minutes tops. So let me go through a few more questions here. If you've got any last comments or questions, anything you want me to read aloud, I do remind you that, I will be reading all questions and comments that are in all caps, preferably, or you can, of course, give me a wonderfully appreciated super chat, but that is just an option if you like me. Don't feel like you have to. So let me see here. What do we got? What did I skip over? Tara put something in all caps, but I don't think she necessarily meant for me to read that. Let me see here. Let me rewind a little bit. Yeah. Some of this I'm reading, I'm like, oh wow, I was even talking about this. I didn't even know you guys were asking about it. Somebody mentioned our demon's gin.
Yeah, I saw that.
I didn't even see that.
I was like, dang, dude. It's all divine, baby.
Diamond Antenna, Morg is Morg Official. If you look it up on YouTube, you should find it. He looks like Lestat or something. He's cool as shit. I like him. There's another guy I also recommend highly. He's a little out there in terms of, I think he's a little, I don't know, maybe he's got like a screw loose, but I like him a lot. It's Theoria Apophasis, and this guy translates ancient Greek and Pali. If you are interested in that stuff, he's exquisite with his metaphysics. I learned things from watching his channel. Exquisite gnosis from that guy. Although he's not an occultist, so don't go there expecting him to talk about what I talk about. I integrate the occult part with it, and he's more metaphysics, but he's got some cool shit. So I really, really recommend it. I might be copying one of his videos more or less and putting it in my own words, because one of the things he found was so awesome. I'll probably link it in the description when I do it. So I recommend him a lot. Let's see. Yeah, that's that. Look into Gregory Demon for elementals. He connects with them well. Elementals is something I'm also interested in, because as I'm not finished with demons by any stretch, but as I expand myself into other practices more and more, I will definitely be seeing what I can discern about elemental beings on their own and how I want to integrate with them. I do seem to have a connection to fire because I do pyromancy very well, and I do like air. So we'll see what kind of connections I make there. Maybe I've got some fire spirits and air spirits I can connect to.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I definitely have more. I didn't know this, but now I look back at like the first 5 spirits I worked with, they all had that water aspect to them, and I was like, okay, I love water. I'm all about the water. Oh, okay, well, now it all makes sense.
I think it's fun because, like when I was younger, I liked fire the best because that was my birth sign. I'm an Aries, I'm a fire element. Oh, that's cool. But then I also found, well, I love air. Well, of course, a fire elemental would like air. That feeds you. It gives you it energizes you. Water, I always had like a deep love for, but I also was like, I don't like deep water. So it's kind of weird how these things will play out. Now I feel like water I love a lot. I feel like the oceans and water and the Cthulhu stuff and the water elementals and things like that appeal to me in a new way that I just feel like a teenager that finds a dirty magazine and feels, ooh, this is so good but dirty. It feels like that. It's like, ooh, I like this. I got to get into this. So let's see. Let's skip around. What we got? Your friend David said, ranty perhaps, but exactly right. Thank you for thinking I'm exactly right. That doesn't mean I'm right. It just means you the guru within you sees the guru within me. Let's see. View all the one. Noel Wilding says, I view the all one concept as a dual mindset where you can feel connected and plug into or choose to step back into. I don't disagree with that. I think duality is a meaningful illusion of non-duality. I think that duality is the illusion, but without it, the whole thing goes away, doesn't it? So it's not that the world is divisible by 2, but it is that we have the experience of 2, because otherwise we would have no experience at all. So I do understand. I think that's what you're sort of saying in a different way, and you can feel connected and plug in, and you can step back, and you can still have that. Yeah, exactly, because it's kind of like you can feel connected to somebody else without being near them, right? You can talk to them and feel their emotions, and if you use your imagination, sort of, you can kind of feel what it would be like to be with them at that moment. And I also liken things to, like, if you hold a pencil and you take a pencil in your hand and you start writing for a little while, you kind of lose the sensation of your hand and the fingers, and you feel the tip of the pencil as if it's you, right? So in a very interesting way, I think that that sense of individualization is necessary. Otherwise, we do go back to source. The dream ends, and it's all over. And what do we do when we realize we're source? We go, "Fuck, I'm source. Let's do that again."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel that. I actually agree. I feel like you can either go back into the source or be your own individual self and continue on the story. But where do I lie? What do I want? I'm gonna figure that out this lifetime, hopefully.
Honestly, don't rush. I think one of the things that Zen taught me when I was studying that as a practice was, it's like the more you chase it like your shadow, the further away it runs. And you kind of got to stand still and let it cover you. You got to, when you're achieving that, you have to recognize that your higher self doesn't want you to wake up right now. If it did, you'd wake up instantaneously. You just go, oh, I know what I am. If you're not having that full-on experience, it's because you're not meant to yet. You're still enjoying the ride. But if you're asking the questions, that means you're getting on the ride. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So enjoy the shit out of that. Don't rush it. And I think when you do that, it just happens. Like when you accept, I'm already an enlightened being, I just have to wake up to that fact, you'll just kind of live that awakened life already and just not care. You'll just will. And I think you just kind of tend to just slide into it. It becomes, and you will have your moment of satori. It will happen, and it will be like, holy shit, what was that? But you won't stop being the ego that you are, you will just recognize you're not the ego. You'll just recognize the ego as a thing you're playing like a fiddle. It's a performance you're putting on. It's an expression of the throat chakra. It's a way to integrate with your environment, and you just kind of know that. And sometimes you forget again. Like there's days I wake up in the morning and I didn't have my coffee and I stubbed my toe and the dog shit on the rug, and I got haters commenting on my videos and saying I'm a dumb fat fuck, and I get embodied for a minute and I go, fuck you all, if I want to kill you, I'm going to curse you tomorrow. And then the next day I just I'm being comedic because you bring out the comedy guy in me. You really do.
Oh, that's phenomenal. I love it. Boom.
You'll notice people who watch my channel, like different people bring out a different personality because I am a chameleon. It's part of my nature. Let's see. So Tara Coles asks, this is an interesting question, and I probably can't answer it in the 5 minutes, but I probably can. What is the divine, the collective objective opinion of those who've transcended? What is the divine? You want me to show you? I can show you in just a second. All you got to do, shut up, stop thinking, and just breathe. Boom, you're divine. That's it. Done. That's it.
That's right. That's it. I mean, it all is divine. Like the thing is what is divine? There's omens always constantly happening. It's being aware of the divine. It's not what is. It's just making sure you're in tune with being able to see it. In my personal opinion.
Yeah. And Sherry Moon Official says, I'm new to the left-hand path. Now, what I'm talking about is not specifically left-hand path. It's kind of omnipath, if you will. Left-hand path specifically, as opposed to right-hand path, this is my definition. There's some people who disagree and agree with it. The people who agree with me are awesome. Everybody else sucks. I'm kidding. But this is my opinion of what the left-hand path is, okay? The left-hand path, the difference is right-hand path is a form of submission and believing that you are a part of something bigger. The left-hand path is knowing you are bigger and you're not submitting to anything. So in the sense that, in a very weird way, if you say, for example, I'm not left or right, I'm middle, well, you're actually left because you're defying any definition or any form of submission. You are saying, I am what I want to be. Well, that's left-hand path, like instantaneously. Now, the left-hand path gets correlated with black magic and evil and taboo because the left-hand path recognizes there's no morality that keeps us contained in a box, so we do whatever the hell we want. We're like the honey badger, do what we want. So we appear to the external right-hand path people that we are evil and bad and dark and monstrous. But in reality, that's not what we are. Is a spider a monster? No, of course, it's a beautiful organism that eats flies. But if you're a fly, that fucker's a monster.
Yeah.
So in the same way, I'm not a monster because I'm willing to curse. I'm just integrated with my divinity that allows me to curse. Do you think that Jupiter or Zeus is cursing people when he hits them with lightning bolts in mythology? No, he's being a god. Well, that's what you are. What's the difference? So morality is a thing that is left behind when you become left-hand path. And so you remove taboos from your expressions. And so you will act like there is no taboo. You'll act like a bad guy. You'll act like you're a motherfucker, but only because it's your will. The thing you have to remember, if you're truly left-hand path, you're not acting that way because someone made you that way. You're not acting that way in response. You're acting that way because that's your source. That is what you are. And that's hard for people to wrap their heads around because they'll work their whole life to find an excuse to hurt somebody, if you know what I mean, instead of just owning it and saying, I want to hurt them for selfish reasons, fuck it, I'm going to do it. There's such a big difference in empowerment when you do that. Mm-hmm. And good or evil, that's the left-hand path.
Definitely. And even with that whole entire our last conversation talking about there is no middle, I mean, to even sum it up even more for everyone, if you pray, let's just say you pray, even if it's the angels or the saints or just something that seems right-hand path, like that's black magic. Mm-hmm. Because you're asking against what is to be altered. So you can break it down that easier. So everyone's probably left-hand path. In all reality, if you are upset with something in your life and want it to change and pray about it, you are left-hand path.
I mean, a thing to remember is if we differentiate left-hand path from right-hand path based on morality lines, then there's no difference between them. There's no difference because the right-hand path is as guilty as anybody if we assume morality. So it's bullshit. The only division we can make is a choice of being subservient to a higher power or recognizing we are that higher power in manifestation as a lower being. Okay, that's one way to put it. You're not inferior. You are. So someone has said in the comments, is there any reason why, I think I'm gonna reread it. any clue as to why most people on the left-hand path really dislike the concept of non-dualism? For most, it's individuality and separation. Well, yes and no. That's not entirely true. There is a perspective that is that. So there is kind of two interpretations of that left-hand path ascension. There is separation from source, which is kind of like, then you become source. So what's the difference? You are source. You're already that. Like, why do you need to separate from it? That's what you already are. I think those people just haven't had that epiphany that they are already that. If they truly knew what non-duality meant, they wouldn't be fighting against it. They would instead be seeking to own it as a god already. Why do you need to? That's like saying to yourself, well, fuck you, and ripping yourself in half. Why would you do that? It makes no sense. You've already done that. What I think we're going for now, what the right-hand path does is says, I'm so inferior, I'm not good enough, I need to improve, I need to become better, I need to join with God. That's how I become. That's what they do. The left-hand path says, I'm already that, or I want to be that without joining with something. So yes, there's two kind of expressions of it. I don't think that it's most or all or anything like that. I think that it's newer to the left-hand path people like me coming into it and saying, what if left-hand path simply means recognizing you already are that which you think you want to be? If you're going to ever be that which you want to be, if you ever want to be an ascended God, that would imply that as an ascended God, you could be that any point in your experience, because you could go back and change yourself to be, you know what I'm saying? It's like causality like loses meaning. So if you become a fully identified, all-powerful source, then it doesn't make logical sense to say that you split or that you have to become that. You already are that. And so that's the message of someone like me. Now, non-duality bothers people because your ego doesn't like the idea that it's not real. And there's two expressions of that again. There is the expression that says egos aren't real, we should get rid of them. That's the right-hand path, actually, if you really want to know. The right-hand path is telling you to submit and subvert and destroy your ego in favor of being humble and joining with a higher power. That's the right-hand path. The left-hand path, or this non-dualistic path, is recognizing that the ego is a mask that the source wears. There's nothing wrong with it. Enjoy it, live it, be it, do whatever you feel is proper. To borrow that Crowley idea, love under will and all that stuff. I think that's what he's kind of getting at. I don't know for sure. There's probably people in here who love Crowley more than I do, of course. There may be Thelemites or Golden Dawn or something. Maybe they would agree or disagree. But that's how I interpret it, is that you recognize that you are that divinity already. Either you're pantheist or you're non-theist. Whatever you are, you believe you are the source. And when you are that already, just because you're limited in a bodily form right now doesn't mean you're not God. Like, why would it mean you're not God? It just means that you are focused on this thing. And now, of course, people will disagree with that all day long, and that's their right. And, when they have a YouTube channel with enough views, they can start, making their own videos saying I'm wrong, and that's fine. Then maybe they'll be on my channel, we'll be on theirs,
But I agree with you. What you said, it resonates with me. I don't know that it resonates with everyone, but I very much feel that, and whether that energy is, technically not a power source, it is a power source, or it just has its own little mask on. I definitely agree. It's like, do you want that path, or do you want that? It's almost, you become like a robot. I mean, it's just like a live
robot. I call it an
robot.
avatar. I mean, you're an avatar. Okay, you're a divine avatar already. You're sleeping. You don't know it, and when you wake up to that fact, no, it doesn't mean that I can snap my fingers and the refrigerator opens and a Coca-Cola walks out and it goes down my throat. No, I was given a body so I could do that myself. I gave myself a body to do that. People say like, oh, if you were powerful in magic, you could fly. I can fly right now. I just have to pay a few dollars to get on an airplane. That's a manifestation of magic, in my opinion. The problem is people want it to be Hollywood, and that is that, again, I think it's an ego desire. It's a desire for the delusion to be different than it is, because it always puts it one more step away. Instead of having it already in your hands, it keeps you from having that power right now, because you just assume that if I'm an embodied God, I can snap my fingers and get whatever I want. Well, in a way, you already do. You just don't realize that what you want as an ego is not what you want as a higher self.
And how much time it actually takes to put in and energy into actually making that manifestation happen.
Yeah.
That's something I was thinking about today. It's like, how can I expect just like that? Nothing happens just like that necessarily. It's a chemical reaction, alchemical, but it's a process. So yeah, you can make anything happen, but I'm not gonna just wake up. I'm not gonna do a magic spell and then wake up and have a six pack right away. It's gonna be like I'm gonna wake up and then probably not be eating like crap anymore.
Exactly right, yeah. But you're eating like crap for a reason, aren't you? You know, it's you're choosing to have that experience because it's going to lead to fulfillment somewhere.
Yeah, or a false fulfillment.
Well, at least, well, I mean, if you know, here's the thing: like, does your ego have free will or not? And you know, I don't think so. I had this argument with my friend the other day, and it was a friendly argument, but it was still an argument. You know, does the free will have an ego? Does the ego have a free will? And I think the essence of free will of an ego is to accept or deny, and I think that's what it is. It's nihilism versus acceptance, or benevolent nihilism versus nihilism. Nihilism to me is knowing how things are but not liking it, whereas acceptance is knowing how things are and not caring how things are and just living your life anyway. So that's kind of one way to look at it. If you're a nihilist, that doesn't mean you're a realist. It just means that you think you know how things are and you don't like the way they are. Instead of finding freedom in that, like they'll say, "Oh, life has no meaning because we don't matter because whatever reason." If they're purely scientific, we're just atoms and blobs floating around. We have no meaning. Or if you're a spiritualist, you say, "I'm just source, so therefore my ego's a lie and I don't matter. It's all made up." Ugh, this sucks. No, you dummy. That means you're free. You can do whatever you want. That's what that means. It means there's no judgment.
Infinite and beyond. It's beyond even your comprehension.
Yeah. Well, it means you can do whatever you want. I don't even mean that you can do whatever you want, like win the lotto by thinking about it. I mean, you can do whatever you want and no judgment. You're not supposed to be a certain way. And when you recognize you're not supposed to be a certain way, you get liberation, you get left-hand path, you become Lucifer, you become, fuck you guys, I'm going to have my own heaven, it's going to have, hookers and blow and all that stuff. and that's I'm being funny, but this is kind of what it leads to.
Yeah, no, I see exactly what you're saying by that. Yeah, there's no way I'm kissing any god or being's ass, that's for sure.
And if you do, it's your own ass you're kissing. If you recognize that, it's different then too, I guess.
Or it's a goddess, you know what I'm saying?
Well, however, whichever blows your hair back. I mean, maybe some people would like the guys, some people, but yeah, I'd probably lean that way myself.
Yeah, no hair to be blown back, unfortunately.
I know, I had to cut a lot of it off because it kept getting blown back, so I just figured I'd make it aerodynamic and just make it like a tail on a kite, so I keep my head aligned with where I'm going.
Better miles per gallon, baby.
Let's see. We're all technically defying oneness by inhabiting our egos. Oh, yeah, nice, David. Very nice comment. He says, hey, we're all technically defying oneness by inhabiting our egos. Bam, we are all left-hand path. Like it's, how's that go? Like you're so goth, you fart bats or something like that. It's kind of like you're so left-hand path, you deny yourself. It's like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
That's a great statement, man. I like that. It's a good comment. We have free will. We can control our egos. I mean, in a way and in a way not. What are you? What is controlling the ego? What if you are the source, what can free will be free from?
Yeah, that's a pretty crazy question, actually.
If there's only one and not two, what can that one be free from?
Only itself. But not even that. It can't be free
Paradox.
from me. Yeah, it is a paradox. How dare
and if you hit a paradox, you're hitting something meaningful. So ask yourself that question. If you really want free will to be real, why? What are you trying to be free from? And why aren't you already? To me, it's a silly question. Just experience your life and enjoy it, and enjoy the journey that you think you're on, and decide how to choose to experience it. Decide what you think about it as you go, and you're not wrong because it's what you make it to be. But in a sense, Israr is right. We can sort of control our egos, because when we recognize that we're not our ego, that our ego doesn't have the choice of what it does and thinks and wants to be, then of course, but then again, you're also asking, here's the better question, does the back of the hand control the front of the hand? Answer that one. That doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
So what's controlling the ego? If the ego is the front of the hand, what's controlling it? So have fun figuring that out.
And make a YouTube channel and get back to us.
Nicely, of course. I don't mean that in a negative way.
Yeah.
Have fun figuring that out, because that's a Zen question. Okay, just so you know. I think we're nearing the end. We're getting a lot of fun comments, and people are having a good time. And I appreciate you guys, all of you. Like even if you don't agree with me, just be polite. We're cool. This is all just for fun. And I've been having a lot of fun with L here, the Alchemist, and L, you're like a great, co-host here. I'm enjoying having you on. We'll have to have you on again.
Thank you. I appreciate being on. I've honestly laughed more than I thought I was, and we can keep that going.
I mean, if you're not laughing, you're doing it wrong sometimes.
Exactly. No, you're right. Why don't want to sit here sweating bullets? I'd rather sit here like be crazy.
The bad guy in the movie is always the best laugher. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, you're not joking.
They always find everything funny. Come on, that's the best.
Hey, something blows up and you can find some enjoyment in that. Maybe you're not the bad guy. Maybe the guy saying don't do that's the bad guy.
It's always the pious motherfucker. No, that's improper. Like, fuck you, I don't want to be that guy ever.
Hell no, man. Hell no.
Like, could you imagine a heaven full of people going, at everything that's not, come on.
Oh, man, when I asked that question, like, well, what's supposed to be heaven like? It's, well, you're just going to be worshiping forever. So you're telling me I'm supposed to go up there and worship forever, and I might not see family members, but it will be okay. Yeah, no, that's not. That's an exclusive club for. I'm gonna do what I want.
Israr, how do you let your ego go out of control, bro? I mean, that's my question. Like when you say, like you're saying that the ego has to be controlled or can be controlled. Why are you separating it out like that? I mean, I'm just saying in case I'm reading you correctly. Your ego can't destroy anything. It can't destroy anything. Ego just says, I don't like this, and it still fucking suffers through it. Suffering is the denial of what is for the preference for what is not. It is, we suffer because we think we ought not to. We suffer because we think we're not supposed to experience things we don't like. And so what exactly is your ego doing? It doesn't cause destruction. It doesn't. I don't think destruction is real. I think destruction is a changing of form and a changing of decision, and it's not. I don't think your ego can destroy anything. What I think happens is your ego builds upon suffering and more suffering. And Isra brings up Trump. Don't bring up Trump on my channel, bro. Don't bring up Trump. We stay apolitical here, and you wouldn't like my opinion about Trump anyway. Guaranteed nobody would. So, I really, that's a very limited mindset if you're going to start bringing stuff up like that, because it shows that you're already stuck in a worldly view where people are good or bad, and you have, he's a good guy, he's a bad guy, he's a racist, he's not, destruction behind what? No, I mean, you again, look at the spider and the fly. Okay, look at that. Is the spider destroying the fly, or is it becoming the fly? Is the fly becoming the spider? Stop looking at the world in these moralistic views, because that's exactly what you're doing. I know you don't think you are, but that's what you're doing when you see him like that, or anybody. Pelosi, if you're on the other end of the aisle, you see her as she's destroying America. No, she's just acting in her own self-interest the way anybody does. You just don't see that. You don't see. Wake up, guys. It's not black and white. It's not Coke and Pepsi. Get that out of your head. If you want to say there are people in the world that destroy things, I mean, what do they destroy except the egregore of what you think it means? I mean, what are they destroying? What are you destroying when you blow up a house? All the parts are still there. They're just disassembled into a new form. You're not really destroying it. So what is destruction? Destruction would be complete nihilism or annihilation of something, and complete revocation and absolute eradication. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in this universe. It's impossible. So don't worry about it. I agree, Alpha. Let's stop talking about the Orange Man. Whether you love him or hate him, we don't talk about that here because we're trying not to get distracted by politics. And,
yeah, because it's all distraction.
It's all distraction. I mean, stuff. I don't mind telling you what my political philosophy is. I'm a minarchist libertarian, and I don't care if anybody has a problem with that. But I don't talk about what party I like or what politicians I like, because most people are too stupid to step out of their divisive stance. They're too stupid to look at reality and go, oh, well, if he likes Trump, I can't watch his channel. Good, don't watch my channel. I don't stop watching someone who hates Trump's channel just because they hate. Stop doing that to yourself. Stop. It's dumb. That's just dumb. It's chopping your nose off to spite your face. Get over yourself. No, I apologize to you, actually, by the way, because don't worry about it. You're cool in the sense, if you have the balls to say I apologize, we're cool, because I don't know you, I don't judge you, I judge your actions. So if I have a tone, I don't know who you are. I'm not judging you, bro or girl, whatever you are. You're fine. I'm just saying, don't bring it here. We're not going to talk about that stuff here. any more than I already did. Stop.
I heard nothing.
David Morgan says the only Trumps we talk about around here are going to be the major arcana, or maybe in private chat we'll talk about Trumps otherwise. Public faces, there's no politics here. So, all right, guys. Listen, I love all of you, even the ones who are having their interesting comments that, you know, we're all cool. We're all talking about things. We're just sharing. If you disagree with me and you have a better argument, share it, and we'll just talk about it. We'll have fun with it. You know, that doesn't mean I have to respect every opinion, but it does mean opinions are there to be shared, and that's cool. So we're all on the same page there. L, do you have anything you want to tell us about? You want to talk about your channel? What do you want to say before we go? Because I think we've hit that time limit there.
Oh yeah, just you know, keep being attuned. I have lots. I'm actually making my brother's helped me shoot a music video this weekend for more activism towards the planet, and you can start following just my podcast. And I'm right now doing a little working. There's 2 different workings I'm undertaking, and I'm eventually gonna come out and let people know about all of them, just so they can, you know, get that gold nugget from it and apply it to their own life. One is with some angels, and the other one is with the Watchers. So, you know, Hannah Montana, best of both worlds going on over here.
And as always, treat it like a buffet. What doesn't serve, just leave it there. Don't bitch at the fucking people working there. Just, you don't like the croutons, don't put the croutons on. Take what serves you, right? I mean, that's so. I think, you know, because you're talking about some things that, you know, in your music even, you're talking about Christianity and things, and it's interesting because you are on the left-hand path and you have these experiences. You're talking about the book of the Exorcist or whatever it was. So there's you got a lot of interesting things going on in your practices and experiences that I think people might find interesting if you're doing videos about it. So
thank you, I appreciate that.
So I'll definitely have you on again. I think we have good chemistry going, so I appreciate you, brother. Let's see, any last comments we had? The Angry Finger just showed up. Buongiorno, my friend. I am afraid to tell you that you have arrived at the end of the journey. However, if you rewind, the first 10 minutes are the most immaculate conversation. That's a joke, by the way.
Oh, I hope I nailed it. I hope the third time I nailed it. Please let me know.
It wasn't you, it was me. I had to push the button.
Yeah, but I had to give it. You know, I had to say it. So I'm hoping by the time they heard it, they're like, wow, this guy really has his stuff together, man. He's a really cool dude.
Dude, your third one was literally, I'm here, I'm for the planet, you know, cool. Dude, it's hilarious.
I can't wait to watch it back, man. I can't.
It was good. Dropping bombs since damn, I'm old now. 1954? Giving a shout out to my boy DH Thorne, dropping bombs since 1954. Damn, I'm old all of a sudden. How old do you guys think I am? My goodness. You know what? That'll be the last question. How old do you think I am? And I know some of you know already. How old do you think I am? Just put in the comments. I'll wait 45 seconds because there's a delay. Just type it out now. How old do you think I am?
You know what? I'm about to type it out too, since there's a delay. God, I can't even guess. I'm gonna guess that. This is The Price is Right now, you guys.
This is The Price is Right.
Playing.
Yeah. The person who gets closest without going over gets a thumbs up. Not anything. I'm broke. I don't see any answers yet. People are either typing feverishly.
I found one answer.
Is this an answer? I don't know because it says live chat.
Oh, I just put it at the same time as someone else and it's the same number. That's crazy. You're awesome.
All right, let's see. Let's keep watching. I'll give it a few seconds to make sure everybody gets their answer out. Oh my goodness, you guys are so wow.
Dude, they're serious. I appreciate it.
Man. Really? I mean, like that's like, all right, you guys are just being flattering now. Come on now. Holy cow. Whoa. Dude. Wow. Will Fed, don't cheat. Don't cheat, bro. Don't cheat. Don't cheat. I date myself a lot. I really do. All right, I think that's enough answers. So I'm going to tell you guys, first of all, I am a vampire. That's number one.
So y'all wrong.
I do vampire practices. I'm not going to lie. Oh, David Morgan, you cheated somehow. How did you do it? David Morgan got it right on the nose. Ding, ding, ding. I am 43. I am not. Those of you said 20. I don't know if you're just being nice, but thank you. Maybe I act 20. That's very possible. Those of you who said in my 30s, I get that a lot, you know. But guys, I really appreciate it. Hopefully, you guys weren't just being nice, because that really, I feel like a kid again all of a sudden. I really do.
You should, man. Your time going back, you vampire.
We're gonna do you next time. I want them to answer who now because David, I think, is your friend. He can't answer when we ask. So let's ask, how old is L the Alchemist? This will be the last one. How old is L the Alchemist? I have no. I'm not even gonna guess, bro, because I'm horrible at guessing ages. Because I go by soul, not by body. How old is L?
How old do you think the soul is? You think I got an old soul?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I think you have an infinite soul, so it's ancient.
Wow. Wow. You just nailed it out of the park. Ah, that's awesome.
We have the same soul, man. They're the same.
Yeah, oh, you're right. Source. How old is it?
From the moment it asked that question. Let's get it. Okay, now people are starting to filter in with their answers for you. I think everybody after Seeking Serpent is an answer for you, right?
No, yeah, yep.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, everybody's filtering in with you now. Yeah, we'll give them a good couple seconds. We're having too much fun tonight. Cop out. You're right. I did cop out on that answer, didn't I? I would never be that guy at the carnival that can tell you your age and weight. That's not me.
Yeah, me neither.
I pivoted. I pivoted. I know how to pivot. I can pivot.
Wow.
Are they being generous or are they accurate?
They're actually over. One person nailed it though. Seeking Serpent 6. You nailed it.
27.
27. Oh yeah.
Whippersnapper. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah, you don't see it. Well, in a way, that's a compliment. I think when someone's like 20 and people think they're 40, that's a compliment. When someone's 40 and they think they're 20, that's a compliment. That's how I see it. You know what I mean?
No, I totally feel it that way now. I'm hoping. Well, the bald head doesn't help with the age, dude. Like, I shave and then they're like, bro, you just got like 12 years older, bro. I just knocked over my chair, but that's okay.
We're good.
Sit
We're
like
good.
this.
Just, the spirits made you do it.
They did.
So. Yeah, I told us. I said 43, and L said 27. So just in case, there's 43 and 27. Someone who likes numerology, I'm sure you can find some things out about that. So 43 and 27, when you put us together, you get 80, right? I think it's 80. Yeah, 80. So pretty cool. Or 70.
Yeah.
70 or 80? Oh my God,
70.
I'm so bad. 70. Yeah,
70. Now, the fact that I was like, yeah, wow.
So our combined age is 70. That's pretty good. I've been told that's probably when I'm going to die, is around 70. That'd be pretty cool. I can make that.
No, infinity and beyond. You're never dying.
I don't know. My grandfather lived to 94, so I have that going for me. But I'm overweight, so I kind of knock off 20 or 30 years for the weight thing. And I smoked until I was 30, and I quit, and I haven't smoked since. So I'm probably okay lung-wise. But cancer, who the hell knows? I'll probably end up with I'll probably get cancer, and then on the way to one of my chemo treatments, I'll get into a horrible head-on accident with a Mack truck. And the cancer will be what lives longer than the rest of me.
Oh my God. Wow. Yeah. Holy smoke. I hope not. I hope you transcend outside the body like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
But that's what will happen, because I'll be like, splat, and I'll just keep going. Like, whoa, that was cool.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
All right, guys, this is official now. We're going to say goodnight now. I think I'm going to have you on again real soon. We had a good time. And, everybody here, I appreciate you guys a lot. Again, saying goodbye. I do this a lot, don't I? I can never say goodbye. Good night, everybody, and I will talk to you again soon. Mind the shadows and all that kind of good stuff. And if you want to support me and my work, obviously just share and like this video, comment. Go to my description in there. You can find links to my books, to my Patreon, blah, 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 blah. Whatever you guys want to do there. And, of course, go to L's channel. His link is in the description to his latest album. Give him some support and check it out, and give him fair criticism and give it some love and show it that you like it and everything, and make sure you support him. He's up and coming. He's trying to do his thing. So until next time, mind the shadows.
See you guys.